You're listening to BYU-Idaho Radio. I'm Nathan Lenahan, and I'm here with Nick Charles. He's the executive producer and artistic director of Door Repertory Theatre. Nick, thank you so much for joining us today.
You are very welcome. It's my pleasure.
So, before we get talking about the upcoming production, I was just wondering if we could get some information on yourself just so our listeners could know you a little better.
Sure. Well, I have been doing theater my entire life, over 50 years. And I have been artistic directors of other theaters. And my wife and I had our own theater in California for 11 years. And we retired and moved to Idaho 3 years ago. And after a couple of years in retirement, I decided I was bored and I wanted to reopen the theater. My wife thinks I'm crazy. She says, "You're supposed to be retired." So here we are. This is our first season, and the reception here has been wonderful. We're having a great time. But yeah, so I've done everything, pretty much everything in theater. Started out as an actor, then I started directing shows, and then I started producing shows. So I kind of moved up the ladder just as my interest grew in the art.
Right.
But 50 plus years, I think 54 years, I think now is
Wow.
where I'm at.
And so, having done all this work in theater, all the different hats you've worn, is there a favorite position that you have that you enjoy doing the most?
Oh, it just depends on the show. In fact, I was just talking to a friend this morning. There are certain shows that I absolutely love being in, and I love participating, being in the show. And then there are other shows I prefer directing. I don't want to be inside it. I want to be in front watching it every night. So I enjoy everything. It really just depends on the project. So it's all of the above.
Yeah.
Producing, directing, and acting. I bounce back and forth.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so this upcoming production is Les Misérables Student Edition. Could you tell us, or the School Edition, could you tell us a bit about that?
Well, it is pretty much the same show as the full stage production. All they've done is they have kind of edited and shortened it a little bit in order to get it into a time frame that I guess is more acceptable to a younger crowd. But it's pretty much the same story. It's just editing out a lot of the verses and cutting down some of the scenes. So it really is the same show. Unless you are a diehard Les Mis fan, you probably wouldn't miss a lot of it because the story flows the same. They only cut maybe 20 minutes out of the show, 20, 25 minutes to bring it down to about 2.5 hours with intermission. And it's all students. It is the kids that are in this show are age 10 to 18. That's one of the rules is in order for them to allow you to do this show, they have to all be students. Even the young ones that are 18, they have to at least be in high school or have graduated in the same year that the show is being produced.
That's really interesting. And how large is the cast?
We have a cast of 32. Which I think is the largest cast I have personally ever directed.
Interesting. And how has it been working, if this is the largest cast you've done, how has it been working with this big of a cast? Have there been challenges?
Well, it's two things. I've never worked with an all-student production before. I've done many shows where I've had young students in the shows. I've done Bye Bye Birdie, I've done Christmas Carol, Christmas Story, a lot of shows that have young people in them, but never one that was 100% student. And it's only a little bit bigger than what I've done before. I directed the full version of Les Mis 11 years ago, and we had a cast of 29. And when I set out to do this, I thought, okay, we can probably have about 28 or 29 people in the show. And we got to a point where we just had to keep casting. And we hit 28, we hit 29, we hit 30, 31, we just rounded it out to 32. And they're wonderful kids, absolutely wonderful. And I even told them a couple of weeks ago that the only thing that is really separating them from the last time I did the show is a few years of experience. Most of the cast members that I had the last time I did the show were in their early to mid 20s. So these kids that are 16, 17, 18, they're only a few years behind that. But the talent is unbelievable. This is a remarkable group of young performers.
Yeah, it seems like a show like this would be a really good way for them to gain experience in their younger years.
And it's not an easy show to jump into. It really is not. It is 100% sung. There's no spoken dialogue. So there are over 400 pages of music for this show. And it's just nonstop. Once it starts, it just goes. The only break is intermission.
Wow, that's a lot. And how long have these students been preparing for this and working on it?
This is our 7th week. So a total, by the time we open on this Friday, we'll have had 7 weeks of rehearsal.
Yeah, no, it sounds like they've been on it for quite a while.
They have. And typically a lot of productions will rehearse 5 or 6 days a week. We've only rehearsed 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday. We've only had 2 Saturday rehearsals because we couldn't do a night during the week earlier in the rehearsal process. But it's basically been 4 rehearsals a week for 7 weeks.
Right. But it sounds like, with how good you say these students are, that they've really got it in the bag.
They really do. I told them that we just started our tech week last night. And I told them, other than adding costumes and makeup and lighting, the show is ready. Everything at this point is just adding the technical element. We could have opened this show last Friday as far as the kids are concerned, as far as them being prepared. If it was a concert version, we easily could have opened last week or maybe even earlier in the week, because they're ready. They are so ready.
Wow. So what would you say the biggest challenge has been in preparing for this show?
The set and the costumes are massive. We built a turntable into our stage so that we're using a turntable for the show. We have a 20-foot bridge on stage that has to be maneuvered on and off during various scenes. And the kids are doing everything. We have a student stage manager. We have a student lighting designer. Everything is student run. The only old people in the group are myself, music director, and my wife as costumer. But I would say the set and the costumes. There are over 250 costume pieces in the show.
Yeah, that does seem like a lot. I didn't realize also the stage crew was also students. That makes it even more impressive.
So they're all learning. They're all learning their craft, and they're doing a beautiful job.
Mm-hmm.
You get 32 kids backstage
yeah,
and tell them they need to be silent, and things have to move on and off swiftly. And that's what the last week has been, just getting them used to moving all these giant set pieces seamlessly from scene to scene.
Yeah. And so could you tell us, when is this showing?
We opened this Friday, the 10th, and we have 12 performances. So our Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings are at 7:30. And then we have matinees on Saturday at 2 o'clock. The show closes on Saturday, the 25th of April. It's a 2 o'clock showing. That's another thing we had to dealing with the students, is that Saturday evening is the Rigby High School prom. And some of the kids said, well, we'll just miss the prom. And I said, absolutely not. We will close the show with a matinee, and you can all go to the prom. And they want to go in their costumes. At the end of the show, they're all wearing formals. They're wearing tuxedos and ball gowns. So they said, can we wear our costumes to the prom? So we're letting them go to the prom in costume.
Nice. That's a lot of fun. And earlier you mentioned about how the community response has been to Stage Door Repertory Theater. So could you expand on that a little more?
Well, it's wonderful. I mean, we opened our first show, our first, this is our first season here, and our first show was a murder mystery musical called Something's Afoot. And we sold about 90% of our tickets. So it's basically a brand new theater with a show that is rarely done, if ever. I don't think anybody's ever done the show in Idaho Falls. And so it's an unknown show. I think there were only 2 or 3 people that I talked to that said they'd ever even heard of the show. So to be able to sell that many tickets for the first show was a wonderful reception. And everybody has just had positive input. They're so happy that we're here, and we're kind of sandwiched in between Rexburg and Idaho Falls here in Rigby. So a lot of times people don't want to go from Rexburg all the way to Idaho Falls to either be in a show or see a show. And on the opposite end, people don't necessarily want to go from Idaho Falls all the way up to Rexburg to be in a show or see a show.
Right.
We're that happy medium. We're 20 minutes away either direction. So we're getting a lot of people from both directions, as well as Rigby. Rigby is thrilled that we're here.
Yeah, that does seem like a good location. And so what do you, since this is your first season, looking to the future, what do you hope to see with Stage Door Repertory Theater to grow and change?
Well, we are going to be doing some pretty big shows. Some of the shows that I have on my list are to do Hunchback of Notre Dame, Jesus Christ Superstar. Let's see, what are some of that? Titanic. I would love to do Titanic. I have to figure out how to even mount a show that big in our little theater. We only have 74 seats, so it's not a big venue. Bright Star is another show I would love to do. Bonnie and Clyde. So we have some big plans. We'll see if we can pull them off on a smaller scale. We did that in Anaheim. We did some pretty big shows. We did Les Mis. We did Miss Saigon. We did A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. We did A Bronx Tale. Some pretty big shows. Jesus Christ Superstar was another big show. I think we had a cast of 25 in that. So we were known as the little theater that puts on giant shows.
Yeah, it sounds like you have some big aspirations.
We're hoping. We have a 5-year lease on the building, and we're hoping to fill 5 seasons of entertainment.
That's great. And just last, is there anything that you'd like the community to know?
Well, we're very grateful. If people have suggestions for us, we want to hear that. My wife Julie and I started the theater, and we love meeting new people and working with new people. And we just are so excited to be doing this again. Like I said, my wife thinks I'm crazy for coming out of retirement, but we are having a great time.
Nick, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all this with us.
Absolutely my pleasure.